The younger man's fist stopped inches from David's face, close enough that the veteran could smell the sweat and aggression radiating from his attacker. Around the dojo, conversations died as students turned to watch the black belt corner the gray-haired man near the heavy bags. "You don't belong here, old man," the black belt sneered, his voice carrying across the training floor. "This isn't some retirement home fitness class. Real fighters train here." David remained perfectly still, his weathered hands relaxed at his sides, despite the threatening posture inches away. His calm gray eyes never left his aggressor's face, showing no fear, no anger, just the steady composure of someone who had faced far worse than an angry young martial artist. "Look at him," the black belt announced louder, playing to his audience. "Probably thinks watching karate movies makes him tough. Where are you, 70? You'll break a hip trying to throw a punch." Several students laughed nervously, uncertain whether to intervene or simply watch the humiliation unfold. The black belt stepped closer, invading David's personal space completely. "I'm giving you one chance to walk out before you embarrass yourself," the younger man continued, his chest puffed with arrogance. "Or maybe you want to prove something. Show us what an old soldier boy can do." David's expression never changed, but something flickered in his eyes, a momentary flash that suggested depths his tormentor couldn't fathom. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but carried clearly through the suddenly silent dojo. "If that's what you want," he said simply. The black belt cracked his knuckles, preparing to make an example of the old man, when the dojo's front door opened with such force it slammed against the wall. Master Chun entered, his traditional GI crisp and authoritative, but he stopped dead in his tracks the moment his eyes found David. The room held its breath as Master Chin's expression transformed from casual entrance to something approaching shock, then immediate respect. Without hesitation, the martial arts master dropped into the deepest bow David had ever seen, his forehead nearly touching the floor. "Gunnery Sergeant Hayes," Master Chun said, his voice reverent and clear enough for everyone to hear. "Force Recon, 2nd Battalion. Sir, it is an honor to have you in my dojo." The black belt's face went white. His aggressive posture crumpled as he stumbled backward, suddenly understanding the magnitude of his mistake. Around the dojo, students exchanged confused glances, trying to process what they were witnessing. Master Chin remained in his bow, speaking to the floor. "I trained under Sergeant Kim in Seoul. He told us stories about the American Marines who taught him advanced combat techniques. Your reputation preceded you even there, sir." David's calm demeanor never wavered, but something in his bearing shifted subtly, acknowledging the respect being shown. The gray-haired man who moments ago seemed like easy prey now stood differently, his relaxed posture revealing itself as the controlled stillness of a predator. "Please rise, Master Chun," David said quietly. "That was a long time ago." Master Chun straightened slowly, his eyes never leaving David's face. The black belt stood frozen, his earlier bravado replaced by the sick realization that he had just threatened a legend. Around them, students whispered in hushed tones, trying to comprehend what Force Recon meant. "I apologize for my student's behavior," Master Chun said, glancing meaningfully at the trembling young man. "He clearly doesn't understand what it means to face someone who survived the jungle wars." The black belt's voice cracked when he finally spoke. "I didn't know, sir. I mean, Gunnery Sergeant. I thought you were just some old guy who wandered in." David's expression remained neutral, but his gray eyes held depths that made the younger man look away. "Force Recon doesn't exactly advertise, son. We were the eyes and ears deep behind enemy lines. Places where martial arts tournaments don't prepare you for what's waiting." Master Chin nodded gravely. "My instructor in Korea called Force Recon the Ghost Marines. Said they could appear and disappear like smoke, strike without warning. He claimed one Force Recon Marine was worth 10 regular soldiers in the field." A female student near the back raised her hand hesitantly. "What exactly did Force Recon do, sir?" David's smile was thin, but not unkind. "We went where others couldn't go, learned what others couldn't learn. Sometimes that meant fighting with whatever was available. including bare hands. The respectful conversation was interrupted by Master Chin's phone buzzing urgently. His face darkened as he read the message, then looked up with obvious concern. That was Detective Rodriguez. The gang that's been hitting local businesses just vandalized 3 shops on our block last night. David noticed the tension immediately. The same group that's been causing trouble around here? Master Chin nodded grimly. They call themselves the Iron Wolves. Started as petty theft, but they're getting bolder. Last week, they threatened Mrs. Kim next door when she wouldn't pay protection money. Yesterday, they smashed the windows at the bakery across the street. The black belt, still subdued from his earlier mistake, spoke up quietly. They came by here 2 weeks ago. Said we need to start paying if we wanted to keep training without problems. David's posture shifted almost imperceptibly, the relaxed veteran becoming something more alert. What did you tell them? Master Chin's jaw tightened. I told them this dojo has been serving the community for 20 years. We don't negotiate with criminals. That's when they started targeting the whole block. The female student added nervously. My mom's flower shop got broken into 3 days ago. They didn't take anything valuable, just destroyed everything they could reach. David studied Master Chin's face carefully. Have the police been helpful? The martial arts master shook his head in frustration. They're understaffed, overworked. Detective Rodriguez is good people, but he can't be everywhere at once. David walked to the front window, his movements deliberate and controlled. He studied the street with the practiced eye of someone who had spent years evaluating hostile territory. How many in their group? Master Chin joined him at the window. Detective Rodriguez says at least 8 regulars, maybe more. They work in pairs mostly, but when they want to make a statement, they bring everyone. The veteran's fingers drummed once against the windowsill, a subtle tell that his mind was working through tactical considerations. What's their usual pattern? Time of day, approach routes. They hit during evening hours when most shops are closing, the female student offered. Always from the alley behind the buildings first, then come around front if they need to make noise. David nodded, filing away the information. Any weapons seen? The black belt, eager to contribute after his earlier humiliation, spoke up quickly. Mostly bats and chains. One guy carries a knife, but Detective Rodriguez said they haven't escalated to guns yet. Yet David repeated quietly, the single word carrying weight that made everyone pause. Master Chin looked troubled. They sent word yesterday that we have until Friday to start paying. That's tomorrow night. The dojo fell silent as the implications settled over everyone. David remained at the window, his gray eyes scanning the street with methodical precision. In Force Recon, we had a saying about bullies. They keep pushing until someone pushes back harder. What are you thinking, Gunnery Sergeant? Master Chin asked respectfully. David turned from the window, his expression calm but purposeful. I'm thinking 8 untrained street thugs against a dojo full of martial artists isn't as one-sided as they believe. Master Chin's eyes widened slightly. You're suggesting we fight back? Not fight, David corrected. Defend. There's a difference. Fighting is emotional, reactive. Defense is strategic, controlled. The black belt stepped forward, his earlier shame replaced by genuine curiosity. How would that work, sir? David moved to the center of the dojo, his voice taking on the measured tone of an instructor. In reconnaissance, you use the terrain to your advantage. This building has advantages they haven't considered. Multiple exits, sight lines, choke points. He gestured toward the training equipment around them. You've got weapons they don't expect. Training staffs, protective gear that doubles as armor. Most importantly, you've got discipline they lack. The female student looked nervous, but they have more experience with real violence. David's smile was thin but confident. Street violence and military combat are different animals. They rely on intimidation and chaos. Take away their psychological advantage, force them into confined spaces where numbers don't matter, and training beats aggression every time. Master Chin studied the veteran's face carefully. You've done this before. Different enemies, same principles, David replied. The key is making them come to us on our terms, not theirs. Turn their deadline into our opportunity. Friday evening arrived with the weight of inevitability. David positioned himself near the back entrance while Master Chun and 3 senior students cover the front. The black belt, now calling himself Marcus, had volunteered for the most dangerous position in the alley approach. "They're coming," Marcus whispered into his radio headset. 8 of them, just like Detective Rodriguez said. 2 with bats, 1 with chains, and the knife guy is in the middle. David's voice came back steady and calm. "Remember, let them enter the building. Confined space negates their numbers advantage. Don't engage until they're committed." Through the window, David watched the Iron Wolves approach with the swagger of men who expected no resistance. Their leader, a heavily tattooed man in his 30s, gestured aggressively toward the dojo while his followers spread out in what they probably thought was tactical formation. The front door rattled as someone tested it, finding it unlocked as planned. David heard boots on the hardwood floor, voices raised in anticipation of easy intimidation. "Where's everyone?" one gang member called out. "Thought this place was supposed to be full of kung fu fighters." David pressed his radio button once, the signal for positions. Everything they had planned came down to the next 60 seconds. These men had spent weeks terrorizing his new community, threatening people who had shown him more respect in one afternoon than some had in years. Now he whispered. The lights went out simultaneously as David and Master Chun executed their plan. In the sudden darkness, the Iron Wolves shouted in confusion, their confident swagger replaced by disoriented panic. Emergency lighting kicked in seconds later, casting eerie shadows that made the familiar dojo feel like hostile territory. David emerged from behind the heavy bag like a ghost, moving with fluid precision that belied his age. The first gang member never saw him coming. A single strike to the solar plexus dropped the man silently, his bat clattering uselessly to the floor. "What the hell?" the leader shouted, spinning wildly as his men called out positions they couldn't maintain in the dim lighting. Master Chun and his students flowed from concealment with practice coordination, their months of training evident in every movement. But it was David who dominated the space, appearing and disappearing between equipment with supernatural grace. The knife-wielding gang member lunged towards student, only to find his weapon arm trapped in a grip that felt like steel cable. David twisted efficiently, and the blade spun away into darkness as its owner collapsed with a sharp cry of pain. "This isn't possible," the gang leader snarled, backing toward what he hoped was an exit. "You're just some old man." David stepped into the light, completely unhurried despite the chaos around him. His gray hair was barely mussed, his breathing steady. "Old maybe," he said quietly, "but Force Recon doesn't retire, son. It just gets more experienced." Within minutes, 7 of the 8 Iron Wolves lay groaning on the dojo floor, their weapons scattered and useless. Only their leader remained standing, pressed against the wall with nowhere to run. His eyes darted between David's calm face and the exits he now realized were all blocked. Master Chun's students stood in perfect formation, their earlier fear replaced by quiet confidence. Marcus held his position like a professional, the cocky black belt transformed into a disciplined warrior through David's leadership. The gang leader's voice cracked as he spoke. "This isn't over, old man. We'll be back with more people." David stepped closer, his movement so controlled it seemed almost casual. "No," he said quietly. "You won't." Something in his tone made the gang leader's bravado crumble completely. David continued, his voice never rising above conversational level, but carrying absolute authority. "You're going to walk out of here and find a new neighborhood to bother. Because if you come back, if you threaten these people again, you'll discover that what happened tonight was me being gentle." The man's face went pale. He glanced at his fallen companions, then back at David's steady gray eyes. "Detective Rodriguez will be here in 5 minutes, David added. "I suggest you collect your friends and leave before he arrives. Prison isn't kind to men who prey on communities." The gang leader nodded frantically, helping his groaning associates toward the door with desperate haste. Detective Rodriguez arrived to find the dojo spotless, the Iron Wolves long gone, and 8 very different people than he expected. Master Chun was serving tea, while David sat quietly in the corner, looking like any other senior citizen recovering from mild exercise. "Let me guess," Rodriguez said with a knowing smile. "They decided not to show up tonight?" Master Chen glanced meaningfully at David. "Actually, they came by earlier. Had a change of heart about their business model." The detective's eyebrows rose as he noticed the subtle signs of recent conflict. A slightly moved heavy bag, scuff marks on the floor, the emergency lighting still dim. His experienced eyes settled on David with new respect. "Funny thing," Rodriguez continued. "Got a call 20 minutes ago. 8 men matching the Iron Wolves description just walked into the precinct and confessed to the string of break-ins. Said they were leaving town immediately and wanted to clear their consciences." Marcus stepped forward, his earlier arrogance completely gone. "Detective, I need to tell you something. Earlier today, I almost made the biggest mistake of my life. I tried to intimidate this man." He gestured toward David with genuine reverence. "I had no idea I was facing a Force Recon Marine, a real American hero." Rodriguez studied David's calm demeanor with professional interest. "Force Recon, eh? That explains a few things. Those boys don't usually confess to anything without good reason." Word spread through the neighborhood faster than Master Chun could have imagined. By Saturday morning, a steady stream of shop owners and residents stopped by the dojo to meet the man who had single-handedly ended their months of fear. Mrs. Kim from the flower shop brought homemade cookies, tears in her eyes as she thanked David for giving her the courage to reopen. The baker from across the street insisted on providing free bread for the dojo's break room for the next year. Master Chin watched the parade of grateful visitors with amazement. "In 20 years of running this place, I've never seen the community come together like this." David remained characteristically humble, deflecting praise and insisting that the students had done the real work. But Marcus wasn't having any of it. "Sir, with respect," Marcus said firmly, addressing David with the deference of a student to a master. "What happened last night wasn't just tactics or training. You gave us something we didn't know we were missing." "What's that, son?" "The confidence to stand up for what's right. I spent years thinking being tough meant picking fights with people who couldn't defend themselves. You show me real strength means protecting people who need protection." The female student nodded agreement. "My grandmother always said heroes don't look like what you expect." She was right. David's weathered face softened slightly. "Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman." 3 months later, David had become a permanent fixture at Master Chen's dojo. Not as a student, but as an honored teacher whose quiet wisdom complemented the traditional martial arts instruction. The black belt incident had become neighborhood legend, told and retold, until David's calm response to aggression took on mythical proportions. Marcus had transformed completely, now serving as David's assistant instructor and treating every student with the respect he wished he had shown from the beginning. The young man who once bullied based on appearance now taught others that true strength came from protecting the vulnerable. Master Chin often watched David work with newer students, marveling at how the veteran could teach advanced combat principles through simple movements and patient repetition. The dojo thrived as never before, with a waiting list of people wanting to train where the legendary Force Recon Marine shared his knowledge. But for David, the real victory wasn't in the neighborhood's newfound safety or even the community's respect. It was in moments like these, watching Marcus gently guide a nervous child through basic forms, knowing that change was possible at any age. As he prepared to leave that evening, David reflected on how quickly life could surprise you. Sometimes the people who challenge you become the ones who change you most. Have you ever been underestimated because of your age or appearance? Share your story in the comments below.